It's Friday! Friday! Amazon, flash briefing.
Jamie, here's your flash briefing.
I do feel
In
briefing
NPR
flash.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. World leaders are arriving in New Delhi for the G20 summit. The presidency of the bloc is rotational and it lies with India this year. But political observers say India's government has turned this into a marketing campaign for itself ahead of upcoming elections. Sushmita Pathak has more.
These days, posters and billboards about the G20 are nearly ubiquitous in Indian towns and cities. Many of them feature Prime Minister Narendra Modi's smiling face. The G20 presidency is symbolic, not an achievement.
Everyone
But
would do
political
that.
analysts say India's leadership
Whatever
has
country's
used it
hosting
to
it is going to put a
advertise the
picture of their
country's
smiling
coming clout,
president.
with
Who
Modi
cares?
as the person responsible for it. His party is looking to be re-elected next year. Observers say the level of hype around G20 in India this year is unprecedented. Indian officials say the mega public relations campaign was done to take the G20 to the masses. Modi has called India's presidency a people's presidency. For NPR News, I'm Sushmita Pathak in Delhi.
Hurricane Lee is now a Category 5 storm with
Holy
top sustained winds of 165 miles per hour. It is hundreds of miles east of the Leeward Islands. NPR's Dave Mistich says at present the storm is not a threat to land, but some places on the East Coast could see dangerous rip currents.
Hurricane Lee is barreling toward the Caribbean. The National Hurricane Center says Lee is expected to pass well to the north of the northern Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. But life-threatening rip currents are likely to affect the Caribbean as the weekend progresses. Forecasters say it's too early to say what effect Lee might have on the Atlantic coast of the United States and Canada. Still yet, National Hurricane Center forecasters say there will at least be dangerous surf and rip currents beginning Sunday. Dave Mistich, NPR News.
Stocks opened higher this morning as Japan reported slower economic growth. NPR's Scott Horsley
What's
reports
that got to do with
the Dow
oddity in
Jones
China?
Industrial Average rose more than 30 points in early
Your stock
trading.
market goes up
Asian
and down
shares
at
were lower
freaking...
overnight after Japan
at
downsized its estimate of second quarter economic growth. Revised figures show Japan's GDP grew at an annual rate of 4.8% this spring, not 6% as had been reported. The Federal Reserve has a full board of governors once again. Yesterday, the Senate confirmed economist Adriana Kugler to fill the last open seat on the board. Kugler will be the first Latina to serve on the Fed's governing body since the central bank was founded more than a century ago. Fed policymakers are expected to hold interest rates steady when they meet in less than 2 weeks. The Fed's already raised rates 11 times in the last year and a half in an effort to curb inflation. Scott Horsley, NPR News.
Increase
On Wall
inflation
Street, Dow Jones
and make their
Industrial
books
Average
look
is now
good
up about 40
currently.
points at 34,541.
That's what you really meant.
The Nasdaq is up about 60 points. This is NPR. General
Look at
Motors
books
has made
with
its first
inflation.
counter offer to the United Auto Workers Union. It doesn't match the UAW's demands. The union is warning it will strike GM along with Stellantis and Ford if it doesn't reach contract agreements with the automakers by the deadline next Thursday. Fighting has resumed in Lebanon's largest Palestinian refugee camp. NPR's Ruth Sherlock says heavy gunfire and shelling have reportedly wounded at least 6 people and caused residents to flee.
The clashes are between fighters from the Palestinian
Oh,
President
yeah, that
Mahmoud
would cause
Abbas's
people
Fatah
to flee,
movement
don't you
and
think?
Islamist groups. In
Gunfighting?
July, Fatah accused the Islamists of
Who wants to hang
murdering
around that?
military generals, and thousands
Even
of
if you've got a
residents
gun,
from
you don't want to
Lebanon's
hang around it.
Hanoi refugee camp and from the nearby city of Saida fled from the fighting that followed. At least 13 people were killed. A tentative truce was then put in place, but Fatah insists it wants the Islamist factions to hand over the individual who killed their general and had threatened raids on the schools the Islamist fighters have occupied in the camp. This has sparked further clashes. The UN Refugee Agency, UNRWA, has appealed for funding to repair the damage caused in the camp by the fighting. Ruth Sherlock, NPR News.
Russia is holding local elections that will last through the weekend. It's also holding local elections in occupied parts of Ukraine, an effort condemned by Western leaders. A
You
year
mean
ago,
the
Russia
parts where the
unilaterally declared
people
the Ukrainian
want to be
regions
Russian?
its own territory.
And claim they
Ukrainian
are
officials
Russian,
are
but
urging
Ukraine
other
claims it as
nations
theirs?
not to recognize
Is
the
that where they're
Russian
holding the
voting
elections?
results.
Come on, tell us the truth.
I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News in
Is
Washington.
it Kiev?
NPR
Where
Plus
are
is a
these
new way to
locations?
support public media and get more from your favorite NPR podcasts like fresh air. Sometimes I'll actually preface the
Amazon.
question with,
Skip.
In NASA news, the crew of NASA's SpaceX Crew 6 mission will discuss their 6-month science mission aboard the International Space Station during a news conference at 2:15 p.m. EDT Tuesday, September 12th, at the agency's Johnson Space Center in Houston. After splashing down safely in a SpaceX Dragon spacecraft off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida early Monday morning, NASA's SpaceX Crew 6 completed the agency's 6th commercial crew rotation mission to the International Space Station. The International Crew of 4 spent 186 days in orbit.
Cool.
NASA will provide coverage of the agency's SpaceX Crew 6 mission return to Earth from the International Space Station, beginning with hatch closure coverage live at 5 a.m. EDT on Sunday, September 3rd. NASA will host a news conference at 1 p.m. EDT Wednesday, September 6th to discuss the agency's upcoming Psyche mission, which will be its first to visit a metal-rich asteroid. Riding along with Psyche is a laser transceiver for NASA's... Sorry, updates are not available right now. In weather,
That's okay. We get
right
it.
now in Seattle,
You're
it's
gonna do a
57 degrees
psychedelic
Fahrenheit
trip
with
to
mostly
an
sunny
asteroid
skies.
that's got
Throughout the day,
metal
you
on
can
it.
expect more of the same,
All right,
with a
cool,
high of
cool,
71 degrees and a low of 53 degrees. From
Amazon
NASA.
off. Amazon, tell us a joke.
What did the fork say to the fussy eater?
Fork it. We're
Stop
done.
wasting my time.
Basically, fork it. Basically said fork it. All right. Y'all have a nice weekend, everybody.